Hi everybody, Jennifer Blevins-Smith with Integral Clinic Solutions, and you're watching my YouTube channel, Navigating the Business of Medicine. Today I want to talk about Medicare ABN forms. Before we jump in, just a reminder that my website is up and running and you will find blogs associated with these posts for you to be able to reference in the future. There's also a resources page that you will find links to things that I have spoken about to help make it easier for you as well. In addition, I actually have a credentialing and contracting course that I will be releasing. It is a charge, but it is to help all of you who are interested in either the credentialing and contracting process while you're working for your current employer, or if you have hopes of becoming a credentialing specialist. It is going to teach you the basics, and there are going to be 3 different segments, so they're all going to be priced separately. They will build off one another if you want to take the entire course, but I designed it so if you wanted to start with the beginners section, see how you do, then you can move on to the intermediate section and the advanced section. So make sure you check it out. I will put a link in the video description. All right, Medicare ABNs, or Advanced Beneficiary Notices. A lot of people are unaware about the use of ABNs and that they even exist. ABNs, or as I stated, stands for Advanced Beneficiary Notice, is a document, and you can find it by Googling it, honestly, on the internet. And it is to basically be a waiver of liability, if you will, for many doctors' offices, laboratories, home health agencies, hospice even. And basically it's a document, it's very self-explanatory, it walks you through how to fill it out. And if you are suspecting that there is a possibility a service you want to render to a Medicare beneficiary or a Medicare-insured patient is not going to be covered, then you would want the patient to review this after you fill it out in its entirety and sign and date it. There are options on the ABN form that notifies the patient why it might not be covered, what exactly might not be covered, the expected cost of what's not going to be covered, because it would become the patient's responsibility at that point. And then they elect if they choose to move forward with receiving the services, if they deny having the services because they don't want that financial responsibility. There's a few different things on there. Like I said, there's instructions that come with it. I've seen it in English and in Spanish. I believe in April of this last year of 2023, CMS approved the newer updated version, which is good for another 3 years. So you want to make sure that you're using the most updated version when you use them. These ABN forms are not used for Medicare Advantage plan members. Usually the commercial insurance will have some different form, but in the same idea that you would want to use. If you have a lot of Medicare patients and you're performing or offering a lot of services that Medicare often refuses to cover, then you would want to make sure you check into those insurance plans, UHC, Blue Cross, Aetna, whatever Medicare Advantage plans you accept, and find out what version or what type of advanced beneficiary notice form they use. It's probably not called that, but basically it will probably still have the same information, and you have to provide it to the patient before services are rendered, like not just like immediately before services are rendered unless you can't get around it, but in advance, like when they're scheduling or going to schedule for those services. And there's a bunch of criteria that you have to meet in order for it to be accepted. If patients are not given a ABN form, or even that waiver of liability form, whatever it may be called, from the Advantage plans with enough notice, it's hard to read, it doesn't have enough detail, there's multiple different things, it could make it invalid, and it could actually waive the financial amounts for those services from the patient. So you might be stuck eating that cost if Medicare doesn't cover it, and then the patient appeals the decision, says, hey, look, I signed this, I didn't understand what I was signing, I couldn't understand it. They're able to provide proof to CMS about that. You might have to eat the cost and they wouldn't make the patient responsible. It's very important you understand what ABNs are, when they're to be used, when you don't need to use them, because there are guidelines that are stated through CMS in which you do not need to provide an ABN. And if you're not familiar with any of this, you need to become familiar, especially if you're seeing a large volume of Medicare patients or you're offering services that are not often covered by Medicare. It is your responsibility, your due diligence to make sure you're doing this for yourself, for your business, your financial health, and to be a good steward of Medicare for those patients. There are links. I will try to put them in the description of the video for you to reference. It can go through all of the ABN information. I'll put links to the ABN. They have large font ABNs, Spanish ABNs. I'm sure they have them in other languages. I've just only used them in English and Spanish. But it's something that you need to be aware of, and you need to understand when, again, to use it, when to not use it, how to communicate to patients about it, how to help your staff understand why they're used, and how to fill them out appropriately. It does walk you through it. There are instructions, but again, I wouldn't assume your staff feels comfortable or understands how to do it. I would definitely offer an in-service internally at the practice to review this. Medicare ABN forms are really important, and actually I am a big believer of having even commercially insured patients who are not Medicare age, to also sign certain types of documents similar to an ABN for services that might not be covered by their insurances, because I feel like it's good communication with the patient to let them know, hey, this service might not be offered, or you've exhausted your benefits for a specific service this year and you're going to be financially responsible, instead of hitting patients with a bill up after services are rendered and they get this bill and they're upset. I try to be proactive and communicate with them. A lot of patients don't understand their coverage and benefits as it is, and then they get hit with these big bills that they're not expecting, and it just doesn't look good on the doctor's side, even though I understand sometimes it's unavoidable. But anything you can do to try to help patients prepare, maybe it's something that they want to anticipate, they don't need the service right away and they'll do it next year if they need to take money out of their FSA or for HSA for the next year for budget reasons and planning financially. But being in a service where you render things to patients that either are high value, or there's limited coverage, or there's lack of benefits, extended benefits, I should say, so it's maybe only once or twice a year, but they need it more. I mean, if you're in that type of medicine, then this will only benefit you to have somebody who can actually work with patients and communicate with them about these situations. But again, I always have patients, I create like this generic form for my practices, and it says, we want to offer you this service because of this reason. It may not be covered. This could be your potential financial responsibility. Do you agree to have the services rendered to you or not? And then keep it on file. And if they do want to move forward and it's a high possibility of a really high amount, then you can set them up on payment plans. It opens doors for other planning as well. Remember, you need to be smart in your business as well as providing health care to your patients, because even though medicine is the profession, healthcare is the business. And if you're owning your own practice or you're running a practice, you have to be mindful of this stuff, especially with deductible season coming up and people having to pay you in order for you to be able to pay your bills. If you have any questions or comments about ABNs, please leave that in the comments below. Smash the thumbs up button if today's video was helpful, and as always, subscribe to my channel if you haven't already. Also, don't forget to share this with anybody whom you feel would benefit from the information. Thank you so much. We'll see you next time. Bye-bye.